Three top 10 superstars are quietly lobbying to cap seasonal bonus pool payouts. This isn't clickbait. This is the biggest power play in professional golf this decade. Three of the game's biggest names just started a war with the PGA Tour. These players want to limit the money that goes out. The Tour and everyone else are furious. And honestly, the pure arrogance makes me want to throw my remote at the TV. Regular fans are spending thousands just to watch these guys play one weekend, yet these country club elites are fighting to reduce the prize money pool because their slice of the pie might get a little smaller. It is the most tone-deaf move I've ever seen from athletes who already have more money than they could spend in 3 lifetimes. But look past the anger. These three players aren't just greedy. They're playing a much smarter game than anyone realizes. They've spotted something called the equity trap, a brilliant financial strategy designed to shift all the risk away from the Tour and directly onto the rest of the field. This isn't about saying no to money. It's about controlling where the money goes. Let me show you how this works, why these three might actually be right, and why the real villain in this story isn't who you think. The US Open is just weeks away, and the timing of all this is no accident. Personally, I think these three just made the smartest power move in modern golf. Do you agree? Or do you think they've gone too far? Drop it below. And if inside golf stories no one else is telling is what you're here for, you're in the right place. Subscribe. To understand why three players would do something this bold, you first need to understand what they're trying to cap. The seasonal bonus pool isn't just one pot of money. It's actually 3 different pots combined into one massive payout system. The first pot is the FedExCup bonus, which pays out nearly $100 million every season. The second pot is the Player Impact Program, or PIP, which pays players based on their popularity. The third pot is the new equity program that started in 2026, giving players a share of the Tour's total revenue. Now, here is where it gets interesting. In 2026, the PGA Tour quietly changed how the FedExCup bonus gets distributed. They shrunk the number of players who qualify from 150 down to 125. 25 players who used to get a guaranteed check at the end of the season now get absolutely nothing from that pool. The Tour said this was about improving competition. Most players saw it differently. 25 players losing their end-of-season bonus means roughly $25 million that could have gone to the bottom of the field now gets redistributed upward. The top players get more. The middle players get squeezed. The bottom players get nothing. That was the first crack. The second crack came when the Tour introduced the equity program. Starting in 2026, the top 50 players in the FedExCup standings get an annual equity payment. The total pool for that program is $600 million over the next several years. That's not prize money. That's ownership. Those players are getting actual shares in the Tour itself. Now here is the question nobody is asking. Why would any player want to cap this growing money? Why would anyone voluntarily put a ceiling on their own earnings? The answer has nothing to do with greed, and everything to do with a little-known financial trap that most players don't even know exists. That question leads straight to the first name on this list, a player you'd never expect to be involved. And when you hear who it is, everything changes. Player number 1 is Xander Schauffele. Yes, Xander Schauffele, the guy who just won his first major at the 2024 PGA Championship, who's been a top 10 fixture for years, who everyone thinks is the nicest guy on tour. He's one of them. Xander Schauffele is quietly leading this charge to cap the bonus pool, and his reason is the most unexpected of all. Schauffele has always been a student of the game, not just the swing, the business. He's the guy who reads the fine print in the Tour's financial documents. He sits on the Player Advisory Council, and he studies how money flows through the Tour like other players study green complexes. What he noticed is something most players miss completely. The money keeps growing every year. Sponsors pay more, broadcast rights go up, the Tour's revenue has exploded. But the percentage of that revenue going to the players has stayed flat. In fact, in some areas, it's shrunk. The Tour keeps adding new categories of expenses, new staff, new events, new everything, and the players' share of the overall pie has barely moved. Schauffele realized that a cap on the bonus pool isn't about taking money away. It's about stopping the Tour from inflating the pool in a way that dilutes the players' percentage. If the pool grows but the players' share doesn't grow with it, the players are actually losing money even though the dollar figures go up. Schauffele called it the invisible tax. Most players don't even know it's happening. So why would Schauffele, a guy who just broke through with his first major, risk his reputation to push for a cap? Because he's thinking 10 years ahead. He knows his prime is limited. He knows the tour is going to expand, the money is going to grow, and if the players don't lock in their percentage now, they'll get left behind. This isn't about Xander Schauffele taking more money. It's about Xander Schauffele making sure the players don't lose their share of what they helped build. He has a 3-year-old son, and he wants to know that the tour's financial structure will protect his family long after he stops playing. But Schauffele isn't doing this alone, and the second name on this list is going to shock you even more. 3 players are driving this. Schauffele is just the first. Wait until you hear who the second one is. Player number 2 is Jordan Spieth. Yes, Jordan Spieth. The guy who won 3 majors before he turned 24. The guy who almost won the Grand Slam. The guy who has been the face of the tour's youth movement for a decade. He is also pushing for this cap, but his reason is completely different from Schauffele's. Spieth has seen the other side. He was the golden boy. He won the Masters, the US Open, the Open Championship. He was on top of the world. Then the slump hit. For years, Spieth struggled to find his game. He dropped out of the top 50. He stopped getting invites to the biggest events. He watched the money keep flowing to the top players while he was trying to fight his way back. That experience changed Spieth. He realized how fragile a career can be. One bad year, one swing change that doesn't work, one injury, and you can go from the penthouse to the outhouse in 12 months. The tour's bonus system rewards the top players heavily, but if you slip down the rankings, the money dries up fast. Spieth saw friends lose their cards. He saw players who had made millions get squeezed out of the system entirely. So why is Jordan Spieth pushing for a cap? Because he wants to protect the players who aren't at the very top. A capped bonus pool forces the tour to redistribute the money differently. If the top players take a smaller percentage, the mid-tier players get more. The guys who finish 30th to 50th in the FedExCup get a bigger share. The guys who are fighting to keep their cards get a safety net. Spieth has never forgotten what it felt like to be on the way down. He remembers the fear. He remembers wondering if he'd ever win again. And he knows that the current bonus system makes that fear worse for everyone. A cap on the pool means the tour can't keep hoarding the money at the very top. It forces them to spread it around. Spieth is doing this because he's been there. He knows what it feels like to watch the money disappear. Spieth and Schauffele are close. They've talked about this for months. They've built a quiet alliance behind the scenes. But the third name on this list is the one that really breaks everything open. Jordan Spieth and Xander Schauffele are driving this. But the third player is the real architect, and he is the most surprising name of all. Player number 3 is Justin Thomas. Justin Thomas, the guy who called the USGA selfish. The guy who said the ball rollback is bad for the game. The guy who asked if they'd raise the NBA hoop because players can jump higher. Justin Thomas is the most vocal critic of the tour's leadership. And now he's the quiet mastermind behind this cap proposal. Thomas is different from Schauffele and Spieth. He's more confrontational. He doesn't mind burning bridges. When the USGA announced the ball rollback, Thomas didn't hold back. He called it selfish. He said it would hurt the game. He publicly embarrassed the governing bodies. That's the kind of player Justin Thomas is. So it makes sense that he would be the one to push this cap idea the hardest. Thomas believes the tour has become a financial machine that feeds itself while the players do all the work. He sees the executives making millions, he sees the sponsors making billions, and he sees the players getting a smaller piece of the pie every single year. Thomas's reason for the cap is the simplest and the most ruthless. He doesn't trust the tour. He doesn't trust the USGA. He doesn't trust anyone running the game. And he knows that the only way to protect the players is to lock in their share of the money. A cap is a mechanism. It forces the tour to negotiate. It forces the tour to treat the players as partners, not employees. Thomas is a 3-time major champion. He's made over $70 million in prize money alone. But he's not doing this for himself. He's doing this because he's seen the contracts. He's seen how much the tour pays its executives. He's seen how much money is spent on things that don't benefit the players. And he's tired of it. Thomas, Schauffele, and Spieth are not a natural alliance. Schauffele is the strategist. Spieth is the heart. Thomas is the fighter. They don't agree on everything, but they agree on this. The bonus pool needs a cap before it becomes a runaway train. 3 players, 3 reasons. But the real reason none of them will admit publicly is still hidden, and it's the most dangerous part of the whole story. The real reason is the equity trap. Here's how it works. The PGA Tour makes money from broadcast deals, sponsorships, and ticket sales. That money goes into a central pot. From that pot, the tour pays for everything: staff salaries, event operations, marketing, and yes, the player bonus pools. Now, the tour controls how much of that pot goes to players. Every year they decide, and every year the players get a percentage of the total revenue. But that percentage has been shrinking, not dramatically, not all at once, but slowly, steadily, year after year. It's like a dripping faucet. You don't notice it at first, but after 10 years, the bucket is empty. The equity trap is the name for this slow erosion. The tour keeps the players happy by showing them bigger dollar figures. Wow, look at how much the bonus pool has grown. But the players don't realize their percentage of the overall pot has actually gone down. They're making more money on paper, but a smaller piece of the real pie. Schauffele, Spieth, and Thomas all saw the math. They realized that if they don't cap the bonus pool now, the tour will keep expanding it with new players, new categories, new expenses, and the top player's percentage will keep shrinking. A cap stops that. It freezes the structure. It forces the tour to negotiate any changes with the players instead of just quietly moving the numbers behind the scenes. Now you know the mechanism. Now you need to know how they're actually pulling this off without getting caught. The lobbying has been happening for months. It started quietly. Schauffele brought it up in a player advisory council meeting last fall. He framed it as a discussion about financial transparency. He didn't mention a cap. He just asked questions. How much is the bonus pool growing? How is the percentage calculated? Where does the rest of the money go? Spieth followed up in the next meeting. He asked about the equity program. He wanted to know how the shares were valued. He wanted to know what happened if the tour's revenue dropped. He was building a case without making it obvious. Thomas was the one who finally dropped the bomb. At a private dinner with 3 tour executives in January, Thomas laid it out. We need a cap. A hard cap on the seasonal bonus pool. Not a suggestion. A demand. He told them the players are tired of being treated like employees. He told them the players are tired of watching the tour get richer while their share shrinks. He told them if the tour doesn't agree to negotiate, the players will go public. That dinner changed everything. The executives were stunned. They expected Thomas to complain about the ball rollback. They expected Schauffele to ask technical questions. They did not expect a coordinated push to cap the entire bonus system. The tour told Thomas they'd get back to him. That was 5 months ago. They haven't responded. Meanwhile, the 3 players have been building alliances. They've talked to other top 10 players. They've talked to mid-tier players. They've even talked to some of the veterans who are near retirement. The feedback has been mixed. Some players love the idea. Some players are terrified of the backlash. But most players don't even know it's happening. Their strategy is working, but the tour is about to strike back, and the fallout could destroy everything. The tour has started pushing back through the media. Anonymous sources have leaked stories to Golf Digest and other outlets. The leaks paint the 3 players as greedy, out of touch, and selfish. The tour is trying to turn public opinion against them before they can present their case publicly. But Schauffele, Spieth, and Thomas anticipated this. They've been gathering their own evidence. They've hired a financial analyst to study the tour's revenue streams. They've documented how much the tour's executive compensation has grown compared to player payouts. They're preparing to go public with everything if the tour doesn't come to the table. The stakes are enormous. If the players win, the bonus pool gets capped, and the tour has to renegotiate the entire financial structure. That could lead to more money for mid-tier players, more transparency, and a permanent shift in power. The players would become true partners in the tour's governance, not just contracted athletes. If the tour wins, the players lose. The cap is killed. The tour keeps expanding the pool and diluting the players' share. Schauffele, Spieth, and Thomas become outcasts. Their reputations are damaged. Their relationships with other players are strained. The tour makes an example out of them. The tour knows what these 3 are doing. What they do next will shock everyone. The tour has a secret weapon. They know something about these 3 players that no one else knows. The tour has been monitoring their private communications. Not officially, of course, but through informal channels, through agents, through mutual friends, the tour has pieced together the players' entire strategy. The tour knows that Thomas was the mastermind. They know Spieth was the heart. They know Schauffele was the strategist. And they know exactly what the three players are demanding. A cap on the bonus pool at its current level, with a guaranteed percentage increase tied to tour revenue growth. That's the real demand. Not just a cap with a floor, a guaranteed share of the revenue no matter how big the tour gets. The tour also knows something else. Spieth and Thomas have a fractured relationship. They used to be best friends. They won majors together. They played Ryder Cups together. But something changed. Thomas's competitive intensity clashed with Spieth's emotional vulnerability. They stopped being close. They're still professional. They still play practice rounds. But the friendship is gone. Schauffele is the bridge between them. He gets along with both players. He mediates their disagreements. He keeps the coalition together. But Schauffele is also the least committed. He's the one who could walk away if things get too messy. He has the most to lose. He just won his first major. His career is ascending. He doesn't need this fight. The tour is trying to exploit these cracks. They've been reaching out to Schauffele privately, trying to peel him away from the coalition. They've been telling him that Spieth and Thomas are using him. They've been promising him more money, more endorsements, more everything if he abandons the cap push. Schauffele hasn't taken the bait yet, but the pressure is mounting. If these three succeed, golf changes forever. That's not an exaggeration. Think about the long-term impact. If the bonus pool is capped, the tour has to find other ways to spend money. They can't keep expanding the pool indefinitely, so they have to either cut costs elsewhere or find new revenue streams. That could mean more events, more sponsorships, or a bigger focus on international markets. The players who benefit most are the ones in the middle. The guys who finish 30th to 50th in the FedExCup. The guys who are good enough to keep their cards but not good enough to win every week. They get a bigger share of the pie because the top players are no longer taking an ever-growing slice. The players who lose most are the bottom-tier players, the ones who finish 100th to 125th. Their share of the pool doesn't grow. They're still fighting for scraps. In fact, they might lose more if the tour shifts money toward the mid-tier players to keep them happy. And then there's LIV Golf. The Saudis are watching this closely. They know that a cap on the PGA Tour's bonus pool creates an opportunity. If the tour limits its payouts, LIV can offer more money to top players. They can outbid the tour for the biggest names. Schauffele, Spieth, and Thomas might have just made it easier for LIV to poach top talent. But here's the twist. The three players don't care about LIV. They're not trying to hurt the tour. They're not trying to help LIV. They're trying to protect themselves, and they're trying to force the tour to treat players as partners. If LIV benefits, so be it. But that's not the goal. You've waited for the names. Now you know them all. But the full picture is only now coming into focus. Xander Schauffele, Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas. Three of the best players in the world. Three very different personalities. Three very different reasons for pushing the same demand. Schauffele is thinking long-term. Spieth is thinking about the players who struggle. Thomas is thinking about the principle of the thing. They are not villains. They're not greedy. They're not trying to destroy golf. They're trying to fix a system they believe is broken, and they're doing it quietly, carefully, and strategically. The tour is furious because it doesn't have control. The tour is used to calling the shots. The tour is used to being in charge. These three players just changed the game. So what happens next? The tour will try to divide them. They'll try to peel Schauffele away. They'll try to exploit the Thomas-Spieth rift. They'll leak more stories to the press. They'll make the players look like the bad guys. They'll do everything they can to kill the cap proposal. But Schauffele, Spieth, and Thomas aren't backing down. They've come too far. They've invested too much. They've risked too much. They believe in what they're doing, and they believe that the tour will eventually have to negotiate. The US Open is weeks away. Shinnecock Hills is waiting, and on the final day, June 21st, Scottie Scheffler turns 30. But this story isn't about Scheffler. It's about three players who decided to change the structure of professional golf from the inside. It's about Xander Schauffele reading the fine print, Jordan Spieth remembering what it felt like to struggle, Justin Thomas refusing to back down from a fight. It's about 3 players who realize that the money isn't the point. The power is the point. And they just took their first swing. Personally, I think these 3 are more right than the tour wants to admit. Do you agree? Or do you think they've gone too far? Drop your take below. And if real golf stories that matter are what you're here for, this is the place. Subscribe and we'll keep you covered on every twist as this thing unfolds.